Congress is getting back to business after passing a rules package that includes several concessions Kevin McCarthy made to his detractors in order to be elected Speaker. The new rules reflect a massive shift in procedure from Democratic control and cede some of McCarthy's power to rank-and-file members, allowing just one member to call for a vote to oust him. ABC's Jay O'Brien joins me live from Capitol Hill now with more on this. Jay, these new rules allow any single lawmaker to offer amendments to spending bills as well, and any new spending has to be counterbalanced by cuts. So how could that affect negotiations on things like funding the government?
Well, the government's got to be funded in the fall, Diane, but another big fight that Republicans are gearing up for is the debt ceiling. Republicans have said that they want spending cuts and concessions on spending from the White House and from Democrats in order to vote to raise the debt ceiling. That's raising the spending limit on the government's credit card so that it can pay its bills. We're not sure how much of that discussion of spending cuts, of reining in government spending, was tied to those negotiations to make Kevin McCarthy Speaker. We're trying to work out some of those details now. We know that spending cuts were a part of those negotiations, but how big a part they played is unclear. And as you said, two of those fights are looming, funding the government and the debt ceiling. So we're going to watch to see if Republicans create some kind of a sticking point or even a crisis over raising the debt ceiling, which could imperil the U.S. economy, Diane.
Now, the rules package also aims to limit defense spending, which has emerged as a sticking point for some Republicans. What's at stake there?
Well, and it's not often that you hear Republicans talking about cutting defense spending, right? That was part of that broader theme of cutting government spending, although we have heard from some moderate Republicans and even some Republicans of all stripes who have come out and said that they don't want to cut defense spending. So that's something that's in that rules package. Again, it's part of a broader theme of Republicans in the House looking to curtail government spending. A lot of it used as criticism against that omnibus bill, which passed when Democrats were in control of the House in the winter, and now we're obviously in the new Congress in the new year, Republicans railing against any increase in spending. We'll wait to see if defense spending gets factored into that, but one of the things we do know is that government spending writ large is on the chopping block, which means it's going to put this Republican House at loggerheads with the administration because they want to start to cut the administration's spending, and that is something that the administration is going to fight against, including the Pentagon potentially, if there is defense spending that gets cut down the line, Diane.
Now, House Republicans last night also passed legislation aimed at blocking new IRS funding. What impact could that have, and could that pass the Senate?
Well, and that was something that was notable, being their first piece of legislation that passed, right? They passed that rules package, and then they go to cut that IRS funding. It's likely dead on arrival in the Senate. The Senate is controlled by Democrats, and that's a consistent theme we're likely to see from this Republican-controlled House. Pieces of legislation that pass with Republican support in the House that are dead on arrival in the Senate. They're called messaging bills, bills that are meant to say, look what we passed, but look, it failed in the Senate. That's something that we've heard repeatedly from Republicans. The next piece of messaging bills they'll likely pass are on abortion. There's talk about bills on border security as well. It's another aspect of divided government, this idea that you have a Senate controlled by Democrats, a White House controlled by a Democratic president, but a House now controlled by Republicans, although by a slim majority.
Now, the House is expected to vote today on establishing two GOP priority committees, one to investigate China and another on the weaponization of the federal government. That's how they're describing it. What can you tell us about that?
Well, these were priorities of Republicans in the House. We know that the Select Committee on China was something that they had laid out for months before taking the House. They want to take a stronger look at China. This is actually one of the committees that they're hoping, or at least previously, prior to taking control of the House, they were hoping to get some kind of Democratic support on, because this is something that lawmakers on both parties across the aisle agree on, that the U.S. needs to take a stronger look at China, and the Select Committee is being designed to do so. So that committee in that priority lane. The other on weaponization of the federal government, that was a committee that seems to have come out of these negotiations between Kevin McCarthy and those detractors, those rebel Republicans who said that they would not vote for McCarthy on ballot after ballot after ballot, and those drawn-out negotiations of McCarthy's allies trying to get the detractors' votes. This subcommittee that now looks into those federal investigations, investigating the federal investigations as this committee's mandate, that appears to have been at least somewhat designed, if not wholly designed, in those agreements, in those negotiations with Kevin McCarthy. What the committee looks like is unclear. We're going to get a little bit of a better handle on that when lawmakers vote on it later today. Who's going to lead it is somewhat unclear. But the one thing that is clear is that it is likely to be at loggerheads with the administration, because they are going to be looking at the administration's investigations. They're going to be requesting things that pertain to Department of Justice investigations. There are members of Congress who are parties to those investigations, maybe not targets of it, but at least part of the broader spectrum of those investigations. So a clash is likely there.
All right, Jay O'Brien, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.